Hello students, this is Dr. G. Srilata. In today's class, we will be learning about literary criticism. Literary criticism has evolved as an important area of study among scholars because literature is a reflection of life and literary criticism is an appreciation of literature. So in my talk, I will be giving an illustration of the introduction of the literature and literary criticism, how they are both very important, go hand in hand. I will be talking about the functions of criticism and the different types of criticism that have evolved over a period of time. Now, let us understand literature. Well, the message of literature is not verifiable whether it is true or false because literature is not studied for the sake of information. We can never verify whether it is true or false because literature is all fiction. The language of literature is not cryptic like the language of science because science is fact, but literature is fiction. The language of literature is Delphic, means it's ambiguous, it's vague. Hence, let me put it in this way by saying that the language of literature is special, it is emotive. Coming to literary criticism, criticism is a part of creative process. Criticism the birth of criticism has taken place from the beginning of literature. Criticism is as old as literature. So, criticism is a part of the creative process. And literary criticism is concerned with defining, classifying, expounding, and evaluating works of literature. So, it is a branch of study. Criticism is a branch of study which helps us to understand literature in a better way because criticism is a combination of literary creation. Until recently, literary theories and literary criticism seem to be a concern of a very few, the literary critics in the Department of English. But over a period of time, due to the availability of books, readers have become more critical in the literary appreciation and interpretation. Because the reading of literature and construction of competing the theories that have raised a whole lot of questions and meaning about the ideologies, the realism and the reality, the role of a reader in criticizing a text and the context of the text and many more points. This has resulted in a number of points of view and theories asking questions from different angles of viewing points. So, we have to understand literature and criticism go hand in hand. Now let us quickly understand what are the functions of literary criticism. Here I would like to bring to your notice that we should remember the classical philosophers and critics like ancient Greek, Sophocles, Plato and Aristotle, who have made a great contribution to criticism. They were great philosophers, thinkers, and they have illustrated the importance of criticism and they have given some valid ideas on how a critic should view. So, according to the classical view, the critic is considered to be the lawgiver whose main function is to instruct the writers how to write and to lay down certain rules. So they have studied, they have analyzed and have given the main points. The function of criticism is to interpret, to enlighten and to judge a work of art and literature. So when a writer writes a piece of work, it may be any genre, it may be a poem, it may be a sonnet, it may be a lyric, it may be a essay, it may be a fiction. The critic's job is to interpret that piece of work in different perspectives and give a value. So when the work is judged, you get the best version of the text, and when a reader reads it, he gets pleasure called aesthetic pleasure. So the writers should be trained to criticize a text. According to the classes, the function of criticism is to teach the writer how to write. So here let us understand Aristotle's Poetics. Aristotle has given so many principles. So they constructed dogmatic principles based on Aristotle. Aristotle's Poetics is sufficient for the critics to understand how a drama should be written, what are the elements that one should follow in a drama. And the writers were advised to follow them strictly, because by deviating, you may lose the essence of the aesthetic pleasure. The Augustans believed that the aim of criticism was to devise rules for the guidance of writers and then to judge a work based on these rules. So, the rules were laid so that they follow it in a sequence, in an order, and they do not miss the function of the criticism. So the primary function of criticism is interpretation of art and literature. So when a critic reads a text and interprets that text, he is trying to bring the best version of the text. The critic explains the full meaning and value of a work of art to readers who cannot grasp it without his help, because the reader will not be aware of so many perspectives, or the reader cannot have an understanding of a deeper level of the layers of meaning in a text. So the critic's purpose is to penetrate into the heart of the book. Therefore, the critic has to be a multiple disciplinary, like he should have knowledge of social, economical, cultural, political aspects of the period or the era in which he is reading a text, because it gives him more inputs to analyzing the text. He interprets its meaning and elucidates its artistic and aesthetic excellence. So, to bring out the artistic excellence, the critic should go deep into the text and analyze it as per the requirement, be it the vocabulary or whatever it is concerned. Thus, by explaining, unfolding, illuminating, he shows us what the book really is in its entirety, because the book should be viewed in whole. The entire book should be understood in a holistic manner. So we have critics right from Renaissance period who have come out with different interpretation. For example, in the Renaissance period, when literature was blooming, we have Sir Philip Sidney, who came out with Apology for Poetry, where he said poetry is not giving a good source of moral message. He was very unhappy with poetry. He said poetry is talking about lies. Okay, and then we have in the Romantic period, we have lyrical ballads, and then in the Victorian period, we have the best critic, Matthew Arnold, who talks about disinterestedness. So according to Arnold, the critic should have this quality of disinterestedness when he is judging a piece of work of art. Okay, and then we have T.S. Eliot in the 20th century, who is the best critic, and this is how the critics over a period of time in every age have come out with their criticism and judging a text, and because of that criticism, the readers are able to understand it in a better perspective. So the primary function of criticism is to enlighten the masses and to create an ideal atmosphere for the development and nourishment of culture, because all cannot understand a piece of work. So the main job is to nourish the culture, because it is to enlighten. Intellectual knowledge should be enjoyed by all people. Criticism embraces all branches of knowledge. So, as I've already told you, the critic should have knowledge of social atmosphere, political atmosphere, cultural, religious, different perspectives in terms of the harmony of the society, helps the critic to bring out the best version of his interpretation of art. Its main object is to see the object as in itself it really is and to make the best ideas prevail in the world. So the critic's job is to give the best ideas. Okay, so after reading that criticism, you should be enlightened. Now, I would like to give you a list of different types of criticism that has come up over a period of time, and all these types of criticism helps the critic to illustrate, give an illustrative description, and at the same time the readers are able to understand how these criticism help them to analyze a text. For example, these types of criticism in the beginning was a pathway for critics. So first comes legislative criticism, and then aesthetic or theoretical approach of criticism, and then a group of writers came up with this descriptive criticism who were interested in focusing only on the descriptive part. Then we have impressionistic criticism, then psychological criticism, where the writers focused only on the psychological aspects of the characters, and the criticism was based only on these psychological aspects. Then sociological criticism means the critics gave importance to sociological ideas, the various changes and the various impacts that the characters happen to face because of the social conditions. Then we have archetypal, inductive, comparative criticism, where the writers take two elements and comparative study, which also gives us a sharper insight into the text and textual overall text. So these are the different types of criticism that emerged over a period of time, but at the same time, literary theories also were a major focus by the critics. They also came up with many theoretical approaches, theoretical studies, which helped them to study a piece of work, analyze the text in a theoretical perspectives. So we do have structuralistic theories, and then we have post-colonial theory, we have deconstruction theory, and so on and so forth. So, dear students, I want all of you to go through this criticism. So, in this talk, you will be able to understand what literature is, how the language of literature is different from the language of literary criticism, and how criticism helps us to analyze, understand, interpret, and judge a piece of work. It's important for us to develop a strong kind of analysis over a text and able to interpret a text and criticize a text for a better version to enjoy and understand and experience the aesthetic pleasure. Thank you.